Who wants to see a millionaire? Tonight, a battle of media titans knocks the ABC television network out of millions of homes. Bush says let Americans bet their future Social Security income on Wall Street. Gore says bad idea. And a CBS News investigation. Did Boeing knowingly install defective parts in U.S. Army helicopters?
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. ABC television programs will not be seen by many viewers in some of America's biggest cities tonight. This is because mega media giant Time Warner has pulled ABC from millions of its cable homes in a huge fight with mega media giant Walt Disney Corporation, owners of ABC. This is a high-stakes, big-money dispute over how to divvy up the profit pie in the new media age. For ABC, the loss of viewers comes at a critical time, the start of a key ratings period known as May Sweeps. CBS's Jim Axelrod has the facts. Jim?
Dan, on its face, this is a big-time business dispute between two huge and powerful media companies. But actually, it's even bigger than that. As much about who will rule the internet as who wants to be a millionaire.
Each day for 30 years, Mafalda Salvi has tuned in ABC for her favorite soap opera. Until today, she was never disappointed.
Since 10 years old, this is the first time today that I'm taping Dead Air on Channel 7.
Dead Air. Only a message from her cable company, Time Warner, blaming the trouble on a dispute with ABC's parent company, Disney, over how much to pay to carry ABC and Disney programming. 3.5 million customers in all or parts of 7 cities, including L.A., Houston, and New York, got the same message.
You okay?
Remember rabbit ears? Unless you've got them. No soaps, no news.
Final answer? Absolutely.
No millionaire.
I'm very upset about this. I can't believe it.
Well, are they going to try to solve it, obviously, today?
I
or is
hope
that kind
so.
of...
Instead, it's all finger-pointing all the time, each company holding the other responsible.
Time Warner is lying to their customers, and they're trying to cover their tracks by lying to their customers about who pulled the switch.
It's totally untrue. As I've said, as of midnight last night, we no longer had the legal right to carry WABC.
This dispute comes amidst a revolution. Time Warner is trying to merge with America Online, two of many companies that could someday blend the functions of a TV with a home computer using a single cable. Disney is worried if Time Warner controls that cable, it will control Disney's future in the wired world.
At the superficial level, it's just about what's on TV tonight and tomorrow and a month from now. But the negotiations that are underway will shape the future of the internet.
This dispute comes during one of the 4 TV ratings periods each year, a time when viewers are counted for each show so stations can set advertising rates. Disney says FCC regulations forbid a cable provider from removing a station during ratings. They're seeking to be restored on those grounds. The FCC has yet to make a ruling. Dan?
Jim Axelrod. In the presidential campaign, George Bush is making what Democrats call a risky business political move. Bush is now floating a plan to change dramatically Social Security. That's a bedrock issue with one of the nation's biggest voter blocs, older Americans, and most especially older women. The Bush plan is targeted to appeal to younger voters. CBS News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has been digging into this Social Security story. John?
Dan, Social Security has long been considered the third rail of American politics because touching it comes at great peril. Nevertheless, Governor Bush is preparing to announce the most dramatic overhaul to Social Security since it was created during the Great Depression.
The fundamental question is, will anybody who's 18 years old see a Social Security system tomorrow?
It's a move targeted toward younger voters and calls for the establishment of individual investment accounts within Social Security.
But I believe we need to allow younger workers, the option of managing some of your payroll taxes in the private sector.
The plan would allow workers to invest a portion of their Social Security payroll taxes into stocks and bonds. It's an idea that Republican Senator Phil Gramm has championed on Capitol Hill for years.
50% of our workers now have IRAs or 401ks. And so using investment to strengthen Social Security is the most natural thing in the world.
We should put Social Security on a sound footing for the next 75 years.
The president made a similar proposal in his State of the Union address last year, but the money would have come from interest savings on the debt and the investment handled by the federal government. Mr. Clinton's proposal fell apart over concerns that the government would have had too big an influence in the stock market. Bush says his plan hands the financial reins to individuals.
Either you trust government or you trust people. I trust people. I'm ready.
Vice President Gore favors a plan to pay down the debt and use the savings on interest payments to preserve Social Security. He says exposing retirement savings to the ups and downs of the stock market is just too risky.
Playing roulette with it and putting it at risk and breaking the contract with the generations is something that I think is wrong, and I will fight the idea with everything I've got.
Republicans are accusing the vice president of flip-flopping on the issue, pointing out that he said a year ago that investing a small amount of Social Security in the stock market might make sense. Polls show that the majority of Americans favor a system that would include private accounts, but that the most important element of all is security. Dan?
John Roberts. There is at least one baby boomer who will never have to worry about a comfortable retirement. She just got it, a platinum parachute from Mattel Incorporated. It's a case that tells you a lot about American business today. CBS's Anthony Mason has a story we'll call How to Succeed in Business Without Really Succeeding.
Mattel, the world's largest toy company, lost millions last year, but Barbie's former boss is making off like a bandit.
Just remember, we girls can do anything.
Jill Barad was forced out as CEO of Mattel in February, ending a 3-year tenure that most agreed was
catastrophic.
Nell Minow of thecorporatelibrary.com says it included mounting losses, a disastrous merger with a learning company, and a stock price that over 2 years plummeted from 45 to 10.
She failed as a strategist, she failed as an operator, she failed as a manager.
But as a parting gift, Mattel's board will pay its ousted chief nearly $50 million, including, according to a proxy filed Friday, $26 million in cash, the forgiveness of a $3 million home loan and another $4 million loan, the assumption of $3 million of Barad's tax liabilities, and more than $700,000 in annual benefits for life.
There's just no other aspect of American life where you fail upward as dramatically as you do as a CEO.
This is one of the most beautiful Barbies we have ever done.
She was a great brand manager and marketing manager and really a terrible CEO.
Now Larry Haverty says Barad is paying with her credibility.
She's missing out on, 15 years of power, glory, and riches. I think she lost very badly.
But Nell Minow says the only real losers are Mattel's shareholders.
This seems to be the new trend, is these disposable CEOs, and you pay them to come, you pay them to go.
Nice work if you can get it. What's a shareholder to do? How about sue? Mattel is now the target of dozens of shareholder lawsuits. Dan?
Anthony Mason, thanks. Public employees lost a round today in the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices ruled that under federal labor laws, government bosses can dictate when public workers can and cannot take compensatory time off in lieu of overtime pay. The AFL-CIO sided with sheriff's deputies in Texas who said it's the workers' right to decide when to take comp days. On the CBS Market Watch, Microsoft stock rallied in the first day of trading since the government asked a judge to split the company in two. The rally helped lift both the Dow and the NASDAQ today. The Dow was up 77, NASDAQ up 97. Up next on the CBS Evening News, why you should care about the hard, dry facts on the worsening killer drought in prime U.S. croplands. And then later, the president tries stand-up and mows them down. There is news about the latest La Nina-generated storms. Tonight on the CBS Weather Watch, powerful storm cells now stretching from the Great Lakes south into Texas spawned at least 4 tornadoes over northwest Texas in the past 24 hours. They also dumped torrential rain in and around Oklahoma City and whipped up winds strong enough to tear the roof off an Oklahoma hospital. Storm warnings kept injuries to a minimum. If you think all these storms are easing the drought in Texas or the many other regions left high and dry, the U.S. government's latest drought map is a cold splash of reality, showing the driest areas in the darkest colors. In San Antonio, underground water supplies hit a critical low point to trigger mandatory restrictions on San Antonio water use. And the drought punch to farmers in the nation's midsection is growing worse. CBS News correspondent Cynthia Bowers is there with the bucket brigades.
In parts of central Iowa, looks can be deceiving. The grass may be green, but after 8 months with no real rainfall, the wells are running dry.
People in town they're all talking about filling up their pools and everything, and I'm like, I can't even fill up my bathtub.
Like many people in this rural community, the Whites now rely on this coin-operated water tank. For almost a year now, Stacy spends his only day off making one time-consuming trip after another just so his family can wash their clothes.
My grandmother raised 8 kids in this house, and they never held water.
It's going to be difficult if you don't have something happen soon.
Farmer Mark McDonald hauls 1,500 gallons of water a day. The soil's wet enough to get his corn crop started, but that's about it.
If I'm getting it down there far enough where I'm getting it into the moisture, but beyond that, it's going to need more rain to grow.
The water that has been keeping families and farms going these days comes from this reservoir, which is becoming a major concern. Typically at this time of year, more than a foot of water is pouring over the spillway behind me. Now it is bone dry, and there is no relief in sight.
If we're not caught up by the end of May, we're not going to make it this year.
And unfortunately, Harry Hilliker says, the long-term outlook could spell disaster. The culprit? La Nina. For the last year now, there's been a huge high-pressure system sitting on top of the Midwest, forcing much-needed rain away to the north.
Historically, the odds are things are just going to keep getting drier from here on out.
Just this spot right here just does not seem to get any water. Some reason God said they don't need water right now, but we do.
Until they get it, the community can survive, but only rain can save their crops. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Winterset, Iowa.
On the CBS Health Watch, U.S. pediatricians issued guidelines today on hyperactivity and other attention disorders in children. They're designed to reduce the number of children put on Ritalin and other behavior drugs by distinguishing children who need help from those who are just acting up, as normal children often do. Now about adults who act up. New research shows people prone to anger and hostility have almost triple the normal risk of heart attack, even without high blood pressure, obesity, or other risk factors. Next on the CBS Evening News, an Eye on America hard news investigation. Crash and burn for an Army helicopter. Did Boeing know it had put in a bad part?
The CBS Evening News and tonight's Eye on America segment are sponsored by fast-acting Mylanta Supreme. Tastes great as it works.
The giant CH-47 Chinook helicopter is the U.S. Army's airborne workhorse. Seating 33 troops and a flight crew of 2, it can carry up to 25 tons, 230 miles, at more than 140 miles an hour. The Army has 431 Chinooks, for which it paid $30 million apiece. But in this Eye on America investigation, CBS News national security correspondent David Martin reports this big chopper has some equally big and troubling problems.
The Chinook helicopter. It's not glamorous, but it provides indispensable transportation for troops and equipment. Now the Justice Department is accusing Boeing, which makes the Chinook, of knowingly selling the Army helicopters with defective parts.
I reported this because I was scared to death about these gears.
Brett Roby was a quality control officer for a company named Spico, which made gears that Boeing installed in the Chinook. Gears that provide a vital link between the engines and the dual rotor blades.
These gears drive huge machines that hold 30 or 40 young men and women. If they're not airworthy, the catastrophe that could follow is something that keeps you awake at night.
The first catastrophe occurred during the war against Iraq. As the U.S. Army was preparing to outflank Saddam Hussein's forces, a Chinook with 18 men aboard lost a Spico-made gear and was destroyed by the resulting fire.
The Saudi crash was a near disaster. Those young men were lucky to get out with their lives.
That Chinook was practically brand new, and an investigation found that a Spico-made gear installed by Boeing had cracks in it. 2 years later, another Spico-made gear failed. The Chinook was able to land safely, and the helicopter was not a total loss. But an investigation found that once again, Spico had manufactured and Boeing installed a defective gear.
You thought this was not just sloppy work, but a crime. I thought it was a crime, yes.
Roby went to the Defense Criminal Investigative Service, triggering an investigation that resulted in the Justice Department filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Boeing. Among other things, the suit alleges that despite having full knowledge of the lack of quality of the gears made by Spico, Boeing continued to procure the transmission gears and recklessly insert them into Chinook helicopters. Boeing denies the charge, saying it never installed a gear it knew was defective, and points out that the Chinook has one of the best safety records of any military helicopter. But for a former Chinook program manager, that's not good enough.
A good safety record does not excuse the installation of bad parts done willfully by the Boeing company.
Ron Williams is now retired from the Army, and tomorrow he'll tell you how problems with the Chinook went far beyond the Spico-made gears. At the Pentagon, this is David Martin for Eye on America.
There's more CBS News straight ahead, including what the president was peddling in his State of the Humor address. The U.S. State Department officially issued its annual report on terrorism today, rounding up the usual suspects while tracing an eastward shift in the terrorist center. Cuba, Iraq, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Sudan, and Syria are again branded state sponsors of terrorism. But the report says the heart of world terrorism has moved somewhat from the Middle East to South Asia, in particular Afghanistan, which harbors renegade Saudi millionaire Osama bin Laden, and Pakistan, a safe haven for groups waging terrorist war in Kashmir on the border with India. Prosecutors in Iran said today one of 13 Iranian Jews being tried on charges of spying for Israel has confessed. That's the claim. An Iranian official says the man admitted passing sensitive information to Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. Israel denies everything. Iranians convicted of spying usually get long prison terms but can be executed. 3 U.S. Navy ships arrived today off Puerto Rico carrying 1,000 Marines who will conduct amphibious landing exercises on the disputed island of Vieques. But civilian authorities have some work to do first. The beaches the Marines will be landing on are occupied by dozens of Puerto Rican protesters, demanding an end to the U.S. Navy's use of the island as a bombing range. FBI agents and U.S. Marshals plan to evict the protesters before the maneuvers can begin. 1,000 miles west in the Caribbean, Fidel Castro turned Cuba's annual May Day celebration into a huge Elian Gonzalez Freedom Festival. Castro spoke on a cell phone and told the huge crowd it was Elian's father, Juan Miguel Gonzalez, offering his thanks. Elsewhere around the world, including Moscow, there were more traditional May Day parades, celebrations, and protests. Police made a show of force in London to prevent violence by anti-capitalist demonstrators. There was some rock throwing, but little else. In Berlin and other German cities, leftist protesters traded insults with neo-Nazi marchers. And in Austria, right-wing nationalist leader Jörg Haider resigned today, as promised, as head of the, quote, Freedom Party. In the past, Haider has praised Adolf Hitler and called the Nazi SS men of honor. Austria has been widely criticized for including the Freedom Party in its current government. At the end of his presidency, George Washington said goodbye to America with a written farewell, a serious look at the future of the country. How times have changed. In this MTV era, President Clinton has delivered a kind of video farewell. And as Richard Schlesinger reports, it was seriously funny.
It's not nice to laugh at a lame duck. B9. But as his term winds down and thoughts turn to his legacy,
you sunk my battleship.
President Clinton will almost certainly be remembered at least for this performance.
The president's schedule is just as busy as ever. He's just doing different things.
The tape was done for a tough audience, a group of White House reporters who have been writing a lot lately about how little the president has to do in his last months in office.
Hello, White House. White House. Hello, hold please. Please hold.
I wish I could be here more, but I really think Bill has everything under control.
Wait! You forgot your lunch!
Remember the kid from the online brokerage ad? He makes an appearance with the leader of the free world, teaching him how to shop online in the Oval Office.
I want to buy a smoked ham.
Excellent choice. Right, you're there. You're almost there. How many are you going to buy?
Wait a minute.
What's the problem? Chicken?
The president can afford to laugh.
Yahtzee!
Some Americans, looking at his two possible replacements, say they're starting to feel nostalgic about the Clinton years, even though he's not gone yet.
Any questions?
Are you still here?
Once an actor became president. With this performance, Mr. Clinton could do the reverse. Maybe.
Ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be a real actor.
And the performance shows one side of the president most commanders-in-chief lack. I mean, could you see Richard Nixon doing this? Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
Or for that matter, Jimmy Carter, part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Thanks for choosing CBS. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
The trouble with the Chinook. Our investigation continues tomorrow. Experience CBS News.